Okay, everyone, and so welcome to our Google Forms 2.0, all the new and recent changes to Google Forms. So I know that most of you in the room have at least used a Google Form. I know some of you are more proficient with it, but there's been some changes made over the summer, late spring and into the summer, that have made it even more of a really good teacher tool for getting to know our students, for climate surveys, for just gathering data around the school or in your community if you use this as a volunteer. And as a diagnostic. So very easy. So we'll get started right away. If you haven't already done so, the slide, which I did share the resources with you, slide number 4 has a link if you click on the image to a sort of a fake, really quick quiz that I made, and I hopefully will be able to look at the data when this session is done. So the first thing you need to do, that you can do, I should say, and I'm just going to set up a new Google form here. So some of the things that I always used to sort of have to remind myself, I'd make this really great form, and then I'd forget to ask somebody their name, or all the questions were mandatory, and then you had to slide that little bar over and make it mandatory. So Google Form has sort of taken some of those issues and made them more workflow friendly. So the first thing you'll notice, if you click under the 3 dots, there's a preference tab now. So if you click under preferences under your Google Form, you have some options here that will now become your default settings. And so if you change these at this point and make them your new default setting, they will remain present for all your forms going forward, which is excellent. And at any time you can undo it. So I have now selected collect email addresses as a default, so that if I forget to do that on the form, it's already done for me. And so for the questions, it's asking me, do you want to make the questions required? And do you want to make a default quiz point value? So at that point, you could, make it 1, or, all your quiz points are going to be of a default value of 5. I don't know that I would check that one, but if you are someone who, if you're using your forms and giving them to your students for assessment purposes, you might want to make right off the bat, everything is required. A lot of my questions involve some data that I need, and then some, it's like an optional feedback that I'm willing to, that I take in, and not everyone wants to complete that. So it doesn't work for me, for my needs, to have that as a default. But you've got to save that setting. And so moving forward, all of my forms will have automatically collect the emails. So to get started with making a quiz, it's the same, it looks like any other Google form, but we're going to go under the cog, and this is where the magic happens. So it turns into a quiz by sliding it into quizzes, and then you just select them, make this a quiz, and then you have some options. So in terms of, this is something that we'll look at today, but it can self-grade, it can self-assess. So you can have it that as soon as the students or your participants submit, they'll get feedback on how well they did. Perfect for check-in and in terms of where the students are and where their learning needs are. Or if you have something that you would like to peruse a little bit further before you hand it back, you can select later after manual review as well. If you're looking at, one of the great things about quizzes in forms is that it does self-assess if you provide the correct answers. But it's Google's smart, but it's not so brilliant that it can mark the extended answer questions for you. So you may wish to have a combination of both, short answer, multiple choice questions, as well as some extended answers that show a little bit more critical thinking and communication on the part of your students. And so you'll have to go in and assess those separately, and that's the button that you would select for that. You can choose here what you want your respondents to see. So if they skipped a question, if it was wrong, if they had correct answers, point values, what do you want them to see? So I'm going to turn mine on to later after manual review, and I'm going to click Save. And so again, this is assuming you already know Google Forms. So give it a title. So we're just going to say fun facts. If I can type, we know it populates. So whenever you want to add a question, you simply click the plus sign. Okay. So the first new change I want to show you today, from the drop-down menu, You can see there's a lot more options than were there last year. So the first one I want to show you is file upload. File upload is great because it allows you to have the students collect, it allows you to have the students hand in work directly to you associated with this tool. So I might say, submit your, yes?
Stacey?
Yeah.
We're just fine. Could you share your screen? None of us are seeing it.
Have I been talking this entire time without?
Yes, yeah. So, yeah.
I don't really have an excuse for that. I just want to say that it's, you know, the first presentation. So you've all had to play imaginary guess along with the form. So I'm going to really quickly go back to that form. 3 dots, preferences, and then that's where you select your data for moving forward, and those preferences will stay with you. And then to set up a form, you will go under set up a quiz, rather. You will set up the quiz under your cogwheel, and you will have to activate it and let the form know that it's a quiz, because a form is just a way of gathering data, but by turning on quizzes, you're going to be able to have a little bit more of those enhanced features. So you just click on quizzes, and then again, it would look like that. So you have to turn it on. And then I was telling you about, you know, if you click on this immediately after each submission, the kids will get the feedback immediately, or if you click on later, you review the submission and manually release it. And then you have the choice of what you want your users, your participants to see. And then any changes you make are present in your forms going forward and for this form, and you click save. Okay, so like any other, like any question, you click on the plus sign. And from the drop-down menu, you can see that there are a lot of different options. And so the one that we're going to look at right now is file upload. And you can type in your questions. So please submit your photo evidence of, I don't know, plant investigation, or your summary, or your thinking, whatever. So it's important to note here, you can turn on so if I am looking for photos, I can turn on allow only specific file types, and I can then say, well, you know what, I only want to have, you know, the drawing, that's it, or the video. So if they try to submit the wrong type of file, or if you're looking for their written explanation, and you know that's an important piece of the part of the communication assessment, and you've explained that to them, and they try to submit a drawing or a video, it won't take it. But you know, in terms of having students demonstrate their learning in a variety of ways, I would leave that unchecked. You can limit the number of files, and as well as the size of the file that they can upload. Okay. And that's it. So that allows you to click files. Now the files will then be very careful with the way you name that question, how you frame that question. The folder that gets created in your Google Drive will be based on the question of how you wrote it here. But it's not the only way you can find all that work. So a folder in Google Drive is automatically created, which is awesome. But when you open up your spreadsheet, you will also be able to see a hyperlink that'll link you to the student uploads. Okay, and then there's also a link in responses. So there's a variety of ways. That you can access that information later on. Okay, so we're adding on to the next question, and multiple choice. So if you completed that quiz today, okay, so which is your favorite? Okay, whatever. Here you can now upload the image right within the question, and allows it to come up as for students to pick. So let's find a picture of an apple. What was that, Apple PD yesterday? So that's why that came out. I'm just really gonna, okay. I go back to my form and I click on the picture, and I'm going to drag it up there. And that's one of my options. And you just repeat the process every time until you have as much of the visual images. Really great for our primary grades. Okay. So we're going to select another question. And this time we want a multiple choice grid. And a multiple choice grid allows us to a little bit more freedom in the types of questions we're going to be asking. So one of the questions you might want to ask people is a range of their familiarity with something. So, you know, I think I asked you today, so your topics might be along the side. So Google Docs, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about Google Drive? Or Colleen might ask, you know, how are you, how well do you know the use of the terms of, or the medium of charcoal or oil paint? And then in your columns, this is where they say, well, I have no experience with charcoal, or I have some experience with charcoal, and I've used it, and I am a charcoal master. Okay. And then at this point, you can select this option. So they might only say, well, I know a little bit about Google Drive, or I might know something about oil paints. But they don't complete all of the topics. If you select this button, require a response in each row, it forces them to answer every one of the topics and rate themselves before they can submit the form. So that's pretty handy because, you know, when students or participants are clicking away, they might inadvertently skip one, but it's data that you really want to know. Okay. And the last new type of question format that you can ask is checkbox grid. So same thing. Rows and columns. So you select from the type of question and you checkbox grid. And I think today I asked you for, you know, you might want to pick conferencing times. So do you want to pick which day would be best for us to conference together? So you might say Monday. Whoops, sorry. I might say Monday. I might learn to type one of these days. Tuesday, you get the point. And we might say, well, I'm available at 8 o'clock. I am available at 8:30 and 1 o'clock. And then again, you might force them to select a response in each row or leave it blank. Okay, so let's take a look to see what those questions look like when we're done. So again, you go to the preview of that form. So you can see as a user, I'm asked to add a file, and I can select it directly from my Google Drive or from somewhere on my computer. And I can pick a favorite snack, and I can pick that I've used Google Forms. I've got no experience with Google Drive. I have never used experience, but I am an oil paint master. I'm available to conference Monday at these 2 times and Tuesday at this time, and I can submit. So that's what how those new questions look like on your end and for the user. So some really simple changes, but I think that they'll improve your experience in the classroom. Okay. So one of the newer things about the quizzes is that it self-assesses. So let's look at that tool. So my name is Stacy. Okay. And we're going to say short answer. Let's do multiple choice and true. And we're going to say false. And now we want to select an answer key. Okay. So we are going to provide, it's going to be is it worth any value? So you can toggle up for the amount of value you want to have it assigned. And you can give answer feedback. Okay. So the answer is true. So you select that one, and we're going to give answer feedback. And I'm going to slide to the correct answer, and I'm going to say, yes, oops, you got it right. Okay. And if you wanted to, I don't know that I would do this for every question. today, but or for when I'm assessing students, but you can have an image in there. So if I wanted to say like excited jumping, Jeff, let's see what we get for that. So you're pretty impressed that they knew your name was Stacy. Let's click on that image. Okay, so we know because we are Google people that we do not copy and paste that picture or else you'll just get a still of this shot. You have to select the copy image address. And then we go back to our form, and then where the link is, I'm going to give them that address, and I have to click add and save. So there you go. So when they click on true, they'll be informed that they're right, and if they click on the link, they'll see the old Seinfeld crew jumping up and down because they're excited. Okay. If I click on the oops, no. And I click on edit. If I want to, I can also give feedback for the incorrect questions. So I might simply say, so if I was asking them for, maybe that wasn't a good question to generate, but 2 + 2 is 4, or how does photosynthesis work? At this point, say no, this answer is not correct. Please review the video. And then at that point, you could link to a video that has a clip of somebody explaining photosynthesis, or the kids can watch photosynthesis, or how to properly cut vegetables in home ec, or how to manipulate something in the art room. And you would just click save. So you can have a feedback going both ways to improve. If they didn't get the answer right, you can provide additional resources to support their learning moving forward. Now, I talked to you guys about, this is great. So this is when you can set up a really quick check-in about how the kids are doing. You can assign them some feedback and some really quick, quick answers. But what about those questions that are a little bit longer? So if we're going to add another question here, and I'm going to say, explain your thoughts about climate change in the north. Okay. So that's an open-ended question. There is no way you really could provide feedback for the kids in terms of very specific answers, because they might come at it from a variety of different angles. And a quick question like this, we want them to come at it from a variety of different perspectives. So it's very easy to do. So you click on answer key and edit question. Oops. Oops, cancel. We want to make sure that the mark is set to 0, okay? And then when you're done and you've done that, you click on edit question and exit out. So you want to make sure that that's 0. The other thing you want to do is, again, you want to make sure that when you're in your settings, that under quizzes, you've got later after manual review. That's the key for these long answer questions, okay? Okay, so you've got all this good data that you've just received from your form. Where is it and what do you do with it? Okay, so I'm going to go look at, not this one. Okay, so if I update this, okay, so I had 3 responses to the data today that from this form. So you just simply slide the tab over to responses, and you can see here at the top you have your the create a spreadsheet icon. That it has been unchanged. So all your data that is generated in the form goes to a spreadsheet. So we can click on that, and we click on new spreadsheet, yes, and we click create. So that data is always there. You can see whose answer is associated with all of this data as well. You can see for the longer answer questions, you can see the information. And I'm not sure if you guys know about this. If you click on the column with the longer answers, And then we want to, nope, where is the wrap key? I feel like we're missing, yeah, here it is, text wrapping, and you click on the little, where it says wrap. Now your answers will fit into the size of the column. So if a student is giving you a fairly extended answer, that would be really inconvenient to slide the taskbar over and try and read that. So as long as you highlight the form, the column that you're looking at, and click wrap, it'll be much easier for you to read, okay? As well, I did tell you that when the kids clicked on submit a file to show their evidence of learning, here is the link. Here's one way you can get to that folder, okay? So it's a link in the Google Sheet. So we also have an overall summary, okay? So we can see that the average mark scored was, 1 out of 2. I can see very quickly who participated, okay, and what their score was. Gives me a breakdown of, the solutions for that question about the book. I can see all of the data really easy for, what kind of allergies do you have for foods. So we have a few allergies to apples and oranges. And again, really quick data here, nice color-coded data on students' ability to use the Google tools. And then I have the longer responses here, okay? So that gives me an overall picture, which the Google Forms has always been really good at sharing. If you click on question, it gives you a breakdown now of the specific questions. So I can see here, if I click on for question 2, which book is a popular graduation gift, I can click on the 3 responses, who did it, and it tells me, that's really interesting. Usually it should pop up with the answer, but maybe because it's an image. There we go. So I just had, it was hidden, it was crushed. So it tells me what the answer is. And then it tells me the 1 out of 1 is the score. But we want to know what our kids are up to, okay? So if I go through the individual tab, I can then scroll through all of the people who participated in this Google form, and I can see what their specific answers are. So if I want to see Jody's, I can see, awesome, she got my book question right. I can see very quickly, what her allergies are, what her strength is in terms of Google. And then of course I can also see here, that she's left me a response to her favorite summer 2017 experience. Now, if I was assessing this is where that long extended answer part is key. So you can give it a mark, but you don't select anything. And you simply, at this point, click Add Individual Feedback. And now I can say to Jody, okay, so sounds like fun. Sounds like fun. Ensure that, oh my goodness, ensure that you use a capital to start all sentences and end your sentence. I'm just going to pretend I can type today with the proper punctuation. Okay, you can go on to explain that maybe they needed to provide more details about their time spent, whatever. As well, if this was really specific to a curriculum or to a skill, you could also link to something else to help support their learning. So if it's maybe a video or it's a review sheet or a one-pager around a skill, you could then link it again to their response and say, hey, check this out, I'd like you to review it, and then complete the quiz again, or just as long as they've received that one-pager and you have a discussion after and they can review their feedback. So we're going to hit save. Okay, so really badly spelled, but I can see here I've left some feedback. And I can see at this point, the second way that I can answer, that I can see her uploaded file. I can click on it here and it takes me to her Google Doc. I won't share it with everybody. So that's the second way. And again, the third way is in my Google Drive, which I'll show you in a minute. So I've gone back, I've looked at all the data, and I, at this point, can say, okay, Jody, I'm done. I've given you feedback on your long answer, and I click release score. And at this point, I can say just to Jody, or if I was done, everybody send emails and release. So I'm going to send emails and release. And so Jody, you will get an email in your inbox, okay, with that feedback. And I told you today that once you make a question where the file is updated, you will have a third way of gathering that information later, and that is in your Google Drive. And I was talking about uploading Google products. So let's see if I go to my Drive and I go to recent, and I'm going to say I'm looking for a folder. And there it is. So, oh, that might not be the right folder. What question did I ask you? I think I asked you a Google product, so that was the wrong folder. So let's go back and look at the folder. So I'm going to do a search for any folders. Search. There we go. It's right here. So I've been practicing with this feature for a little bit. So there's all these fake folders. So I click on that, and I can see that you guys have all uploaded all your work. So there's 3 ways that I can see student work that they upload. And it's up to you then to release the scores. If you've had an extended response and you've selected release later, you have to manually release. If there is just the release upon submission, it'll automatically mark everything for you, and you don't have to do that last step. And the one thing that I wanted to show you . Where's my question going? Okay, here. Beside the question, we now have a little blue icon that shows up to the right of the question line. So if you wanted to include a math or a chemistry equation here, you could activate Equasio. And Equasio is free to all of our Superior Greenstone users, that's staff and students. And you can see that it's activated because it's on my nav bar. The first troubleshooting tips of advice I can give to you: we're finding that people are still logging into Google Chrome with their personal accounts, or they're not even logged into Google Chrome. So check the tab at the top of your Google Chrome and make sure that it's your board account and that your Google account is also your board account. Then those two will speak to each other and they will push out any of the apps that we do buy you. And this Equasio is one of those apps that we purchased. So we can click on the Equasio. And down here, I'm going to go to equation editor, and I'm going to say 4, and it's predictive. So 4 times 7 equals, and it's got a green face on it, so I know it's good to go. It says, okay, it's recognizing this math, and I'm going to insert it. And it does its magic. It does its magic. It's very small. Let's do it up here. Let's try that again. That's very weird. Insert math. I have no idea why it's doing that. It's going to be. Okay, this afternoon that should be really big. So let's go into preview. Maybe that's what it is. Let's go to preview. Okay, so it's still small, and I'm not sure why, but you get the point. So Equasio is great for math and chemistry teachers, and again, it's predictive. I won't spend time on Equasio today, but it is very easy to use, and throws up throws up a really nice big picture for you to insert into your math very, very seamlessly. And then the kids can also click on Equasio to respond. So they can, if they have a tablet that they can write on, they can use their finger or a pen to draw on the tablet, or they can type it in, or if they have a headset, they can also tell Equasio their math, and it will change it from speech to text. So I'm going to stop I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to go back to the room and ask if there's any questions. Are we all good, guys? Okay, so I'm going to stop recording.